Hey everybody, welcome in. There was no technical difficulties. Everything's a go. Dan's sitting backstage. He is nervous. Just want everybody to know he is a little bit nervous. He says it's like the first day of school. So please be very respectful. Please just be very respectful. We want to give a platform for people to want to come up on the lives. We want people to come up and talk. We don't want them to get here and run away because chat is being disrespectful, mean, and whatnot. So it is Monday, April 14th, 2025. Welcome into Missing PNW Crimes Revisited. I'm Samantha. I just want to thank everybody for being here to support Monkey and the Vaughn family. Also, a big thanks to all of my mods and to chat for being respectful when Misty came up on panel. You know, something that I wanted to talk about too is I just want to make it clear that I am not trying, or that I'm just trying to provide a safe place for anybody with information on the four suspects or Monkey's case. And I stand with Brandy and the Vaughn family and law enforcement. Brandy knows where I stand 100%. I got some heat a little bit after Misty came up, and it's because Misty doesn't believe that Brandon is guilty. But that doesn't mean that I think he's innocent. I believe that Brandon has some kind of knowledge, and I've said that many times before. I'm not trying to clear Brandon's name for anything that he may or may not had to do with Michael's case, Michael's abduction, Michael's murder. That is not what I'm trying to do at all. I stand with law enforcement, and law enforcement says that Brandon has knowledge. Brandy did give me permission to talk a little bit and tell everybody about what's going on with her right now. So last week she went to the hospital. She was there for 3 or 4 days. She got many blood transfusions. They had to cancel her trip to Utah. I don't know where she's going from there as far as getting her liver, but they did have to cancel her trip to Utah because she's very ill. And we need to keep praying for Brandy, for Monkey, and keep praying that one of these suspects will come forward and talk. The 4 suspects in Michael Vaughn's case are Sarah and Stacy Wandra, Adrian Lucian, and Brandon Shurtliff. Brandon Shurtliff is a named suspect, and that was updated January 10th of 2025. If anybody has any information about the suspects, Michael's abduction, Michael's murder, please call law enforcement at 208-642-6006 or email findmichael@fruitland.org. Please let law enforcement determine whether or not your tip is credible. One of these suspects abducted Michael. One of these suspects murdered Michael. One of these suspects buried Michael in the Wandra's backyard, and one of these suspects moved Michael from the Wandra's backyard to an unknown location. There is over $52,000 reward for any information leading to Michael Vaughn, and you can remain anonymous. Michael deserves justice, and his family deserves peace. So please, if you have a tip, please call law enforcement at 208-642-6006 or email findmichael@fruitland.org. Again, please, please be respectful. I'm going to add Dan now. Just 1 second. Hold on. Let me thank everybody for coming in again. DC Prime Time, Sarah Suspicious, Purple, thank you guys for coming in. All my mods, Connie, Melissa, good to see you guys. Got Bolts, Angel Girl, thank you guys all for coming in. Thank you for supporting Monkey. Thank you for supporting the Vaughn family. Tooth Fairy, Yaya's World, The Real Brenda is here. Thank you so much for coming in. Aussie True Crime. Jen R. Hair Curlers and Crime, best name on the YouTube streets. Jen R. Thank you so much for coming in. Laura Jean. Thank you guys so much. Halo R. Good to see you, love. Toaster. Makes me want breakfast. Good to see you. Mama B in the house. Thank you guys all so very much. Melissa. Whistle while you lurk. Ooh, I like that. You know, we're never going to stop trying to find Monkey. We're never going to stop fighting for justice. We're never going to stop. We're not going anywhere. We're going to continue doing everything we could to help the Vaughn family and law enforcement find the truth, because the Vaughn family deserves truth. They deserve to know. I see you. I see you too. I love that. They deserve peace. They deserve to know where Monkey is. They deserve justice, and indictments are coming. Renee, good to see you. Indictments are coming. The Vaughn family's already been told they're coming. Blue Heron, thank you for coming in. Good to see you again. Rizzo, Rizzo is here. Thank you. Shannon, thank you for coming in. So, yeah. Ellie, thank you for coming in. We're never going to stop. And that's what these suspects need to realize. We're never going to stop fighting for justice. Okay, so with that being said, let's add Daniel Guthrie and to the panel, and please be respectful to our guest. And if you're not, you can leave now, because I'm watching. If I cannot provide a safe place for people to come and talk, it's not worth having guests on my panel. I refuse to deal with anybody disrespecting my guests. So, here we come, Dan. I'm coming after you.
Yes.
What's going on?
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Busy. Contractor season.
I know. I started to get nervous a little bit. I knew you guys were working and your phone could have either been out of service or whatever. And then Jessica's like, nope, we just got out of showers. She was really happy when I asked her if we could push it back 30 minutes. I could tell you guys were feeling a little bit rushed. So,
Yeah, razzled.
right? Well, I don't know if everybody knows who you are. So I just want to thank you so much for, first of all, for agreeing to come on the live. I know this isn't easy for you because of how long you've known Brandon and his family. Can you just tell everybody your relationship with Brandon and a little bit about yourself and your business? And
well, my name's Daniel Guthrie. I do remodels and siding for myself. I live in Livingston, Montana. I've been there like 8 years, almost 7.5 years. mainly for work. Bozeman's kind of booming, so I stay pretty busy here. Um, Other than that, I'm married. I just run my own business. I work all the time. Really, I don't really do much. To tell you the truth, I fish, hunt, and work. That's about it.
Fish.
Brandon, I've known Brandon's dad. I worked in the oil field years ago in North Dakota, and I mean like 17 years ago. And I met his dad. His dad owned a excavation company, still does. And his dad, he was spreading dirt and stuff on some of the locations. I would build locations. I installed like the treater houses and the pumping units.
Okay.
So, and I just got to know everybody. I became a foreman, I had my own locations, and I just kind of got to know everybody. And I got to know him, and he wanted me to get his son a job, and that was Brandon. And I got him a job and taught him how to rouse about. It's what they call it, what we were doing, roughnecking, and worked the rigs and all that stuff. And he worked with me for a while. We just kind of became buddies, and shit, he was only 17, I think. And so I've known him, I don't know, known him for about 16 years, I think. His dad for maybe 17 or 18 years. And other than that, I myself went to prison in North Dakota. I got in some trouble and went away like 2013 and 2012, somewhere in there. And anyways, went to prison for a while. And I got out 2018. And I moved to North Dakota, or back out here to Montana. I moved to North Dakota first, and then there's a lot of work out here, so I ended up over here. Is what happened. And I hadn't seen Brandon since I went to prison, and that was like 2012, 2013. So he was still young,
Yeah.
maybe even 18 or so. So I would say most of our relationship that I've known him, but I've only had a physical relationship with him for like the past few years. And before that, there was a big gap. And
Okay.
and then we had like a three-year relationship where we just kind of hung out all the time like buddies. But we were all younger back then. I was 30 myself. So he must have been maybe 20 or so when I went to prison. He was still young. And so anyways, and then when I got out, he was like 30. So there was like 10-year gap there, and or something like that. And anyways, um, I'm always busy working, so he reached out to me one day, and he lives over in Idaho, and I'm just a hop skip away, really. It's only like a 7-hour drive here, and from his mom's, and then and anyways, so I needed just help at work, so he ended up out here. What year was that, Jess?
Are you talking? So we're going back to like December of like 2022, and this is like a
Yeah,
month
so
after Stacy Wandra gives Lee the tip that Michael was buried in the Wandra's yard, and that there were 4 suspects of Michael's abduction, and that Sarah and Stacy Wandra, Adrian, Lucian, Brandon Shurtliff, and at the time,
I want to say
Brandon
I want to say it
came.
was a couple months even before that, Sam.
Right, right. That's what you were saying, is that at the time Brandon was in Livingston, Montana working with you. Prior to all of that like going down, he was there working for you. And you've mentioned to me like you didn't know anything about anything that was going
No,
on.
no, not until his mom had sent me some YouTube videos one day randomly. 'Cause I talked to his mom and his grandma on and off, and his dad too. I haven't spoke to his dad in a while. I seen him over the holidays, Christmas holidays. We were all out there, and well, I was because I went through there to go see my kids in Minnesota. And anyways, and his dad lives on the way, so I checked his dad out for a few hours, and 'cause we actually have some business ideas together. He wants me to build a bunch of little rental cabins for him because he's got some property. And anyways, that's a different story. But so I kind of swung through and talked with him for a little bit, So I've actually seen him recently, but that was the first time I've seen Jason. That's Brandon's dad for years too. So um, yeah, so he came out. It was in the fall. It was before October anyway, or something like that. Around he
Okay,
mentioned
so yeah.
he'd reached out to me one day on Messenger, and then we kind of started communicating. that way. And then it was just kind of like shoot the BS kind of stuff, just hey, what's up, bud, kind of stuff, and been for years. But yeah, I never knew anything. Nothing was ever brought up. And then so I sent
Brandon
for him.
never Brandon never mentioned anything to you about him being a suspect or anything
Not
either?
no. His mom is the one that asked if he had been talking to me about it, and I was like, when because she sent me a video, and I was like, that's the first I've even heard of this shit. So
Like you hadn't even heard of like Michael's abduction or anything?
no, not at all. Absolutely. So yeah, I knew nothing about it. So like I thought it was kind of weird for me for a while. I kind of be honest with you, I know this sounds bad. I was like, nah, this gotta be BS. And because like I said, I knew Brandon for years, but there was a long gap in a relationship with him. So at the same time, it's like, people change too. So, but as far as that goes, no, he never spoke to me about it. It was always just more personal stuff and like his life and girl stuff. He was his kid thing, and because he's got a little girl too, and he would talk about just what guys talk about, really, nothing at all about any of that at all. And then I got into it. 'Cause I said, "Oh, what is this?" So his mom sent me a video or two, and my wife a video or two, and so that's how we started digging into it. And then I started questioning him about things, and I kind of got into the whole uh, loop of things, I guess you could call it. But
Right, just kind of
yeah, yeah, before that,
updating
I didn't.
yourself on everything.
Yeah, well, you got to understand too, Sam. I'm not a ton of a TV guy either. Like I watch guilty enough. Like if I'm spacing out on something, it's usually my iPhone on my reels. I'm always doing estimates. I'm always doing something. I get off work, I do paperwork for hours, and then I'm not down on the couch kind of guy.
Right. Well, and that's
So,
okay.
so I
I
don't really
mean,
watch
so
TV. If I do, I'm YouTubing something or whatever. So how I got in the loop and my family got in the loop of everything is through via his mother had sent me some videos, wanting to know if he had mentioned any of it. And before that, I hadn't heard a peep about any of it. And then it wasn't, long after that, I started, looking up the stuff, kind of digging myself. And I just started watching, like I spoke with Jonathan Ritchie's, I think it's called, and like years ago, and and
oh,
I,
you
I'm the one,
actually spoke with JLR
yeah, I'm the
investigating?
one that got him to get the little interview with Brandon years ago.
I did not know that. Oh,
But,
wow.
yeah, that was me because I was like, look, dude, if you want to come back and work, you better start clearing some stuff up, man, because I got a family too, bud. So,
Right. So, at what point did law enforcement end up coming to Montana to find Brandon back then?
oh no, back then it was around it was like November, so wasn't maybe a month after his mom had started, or a couple weeks after I started receiving videos, and I'd have to dig through my messenger to. It was in the late fall, early winter, something like that. I'm gonna say.
We got a super chat here that says, "Thank you, Daniel, for being here tonight."
Oh yeah, yeah. No worries, no worries. I went straight from painting to YouTubing.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. Thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate it very much. Um, so did they come to your house or did they come to work? Can you tell us a little about a bit like what
No,
went down when they came?
when they you mean recently or like
No, back
the
then
20
in
in 20.
2022.
Yeah, it was like 22, late 21, yeah, or something like that. Yeah, early. That was all. That was so. Okay, so I started digging around, and Jessica, how'd that happen? Did I get a phone call or something? How it started?
So Tina sent us some messages about this case after she was contacted by law
Yeah,
enforcement.
so his mom was contacted by law enforcement about some stuff, and she started flooding us with videos. And then I want to say his mom must have given him. I can't verify this, but I don't know. All I know is I was speaking with his mom about everything, and then uh, one of the detectives had reached out to. Actually, it was a couple of them. It was you know me and you spoke about him. You told me not to say anything with detectives. So,
Right.
but anyways,
Well, you can talk about the
So
detectives. I just didn't want to use their name.
so they reached out and via phone, just I said, oh, it's Idaho numbers. What is this? So I assumed it was relatives or something like that or whatever, and then it was the detectives from over there. And I want to say I even spoke with the chief one time over there too, and yeah, it was basically the lines of questioning. There was just did I know anything about it, and they were just kind of verifying me and my story, I think more or less, and
So did they come there then, or
I did
just
not.
on the phone?
I spoke with them via telephone, so
Okay.
over multiple occasions. But and then there was there was a couple of times Brandon would actually be on the phone with him, and he would just pass the phone off to me, and that's how we spoke a couple of times as well.
What was
So
Brandon's reaction to them
back
calling you and
then,
talking with you?
when all that everything started coming to light, I guess you could call it, and everybody was calling, and he was starting to get questioned left and right, and even by me too, FYI. So, so I mean, when it comes, I've known him for years. When it comes to stuff like that, dude, I need to know what's up, man. So, anyways, he went a little, as I think anybody would. I just back then I seen it a little differently. I just under a lot of pressure. I was like, man, I can only imagine getting accused of stuff like that. So I thought the way he was behaving was just natural. To be honest with you, because like if I was accused of anything weird like that, or which I never would be, but I don't know how a person would react. I don't know. And like I said, like that was the first time I'd even seen him in like 8 years. And
Right.
I'd only verbally started speaking to him couple months before that, before he
So
came out
what
and
was
started
your
working. So my
yeah, what was
reaction,
your reaction like
I've been
hearing
on
all
the
of this?
razor's edge, man, for a couple years now. Like because I would speak with detectives, and then I would kind of keep him, like just trying to help him out, like the cops, like just let him work with you, let him stay there, we know where he's at, kind of thing, and and he just kept working, and it turned into a year and a half or something like that. And then it took him a while to mellow out, but I just chopped it up to just he was always getting phone calls from different people asking him the same thing. So like he worked all the time with me because I work all the time, and then he lived under interrogation. So I just chopped it up as like just overload, So I didn't know. But then there was occasions too where like I had to go, hey man, you better calm your ass down.
Right?
So
Yeah. Because I remember you telling me that, you're saying like he was reacting to what any person would react to, being a suspect in a missing
presume,
child case,
yeah,
like an abducted child and a murder here. And, so he was acting a little bit paranoid, a little out of the normal little bit. But I know you were concerned about all of that. Um, how was you guys' relationship from like then when he ended up because I know he left Montana right after that, right?
yeah, he got a girlfriend or something and wanted to go back to Idaho, and then he came back. He was gone, I think, like a year,
Well,
something
then he
like
went
that.
to his dad's too and was there
Yeah,
for
and
a while.
then he was out of his dad's for a while. I think it was like a year and a half gap there too. So during the past couple years of this, he only stayed with me for like a year on and off. So because he would take off to his dad's for a while, and then he had a girlfriend in Idaho, and then he's Brandon's kind of all over. But for
Right.
a permanency, I would say it was like a year there. He stayed kind of steady with me, and but he went to work every day. That's all we did. Go to work and go fishing, like guys do, I guess. That's all we did. And
Right.
and I had my kids out during the summer, and when all this stuff was happening, I asked my kids because they're younger, and I would be like, "Look, man, is Brandon being weird or anything?" And my kids never had anything bad to say about him, to tell you the truth. So they
Right. I
call him,
remember you telling me that. Like they call him uncle and everything. You guys are
yeah,
like brothers.
they've never ever, and believe me, I've grilled them and questioned them up and down about weird stuff and this and that and innuisms and making sure they know what those things are, and and stuff like that. And they've never one time told me anything. Like they honestly don't. They're like, man, that thing be being framed, Dad. And, you know what I mean? So, because
Yeah.
and that's honestly God, like their take on it too. So,
So
but at the same time,
just
I haven't told them everything that I've been, kind of privy to too. So,
right, of course not, because they're young. I mean, I know
right.
your
Same thing.
some of your kids are young, I should say. But so let's fast forward then to like a few months back, this past November 2025. Brandon recently came back to work with you, right?
Well, here's what was happening. I was wrapping up my season, and my daughter wanted me to move out to Minnesota, where she lives. I have a teenage daughter out there, and her grandma she did pass since then, but she wanted us to kind of resettle out there because her grandmother was sick, and her grandmother passed a few months ago, Jess.
Best way a month ago.
Was it more than like a month ago? It's still like a couple months already. I guess it was very recently. I guess 5 weeks ago. So, and but anyway, so she ended up at anyways. But so we went out there for the holidays, and I had a bunch of stuff to wrap up, like scaffolding, all kind of stuff, and I wanted to pack up my place, and I signed for a couple contracts. I'm in Montana working now, but once these are done, I am relocating after this season, so to help over that way. But anyways, so I sent for him to come back out. Well, he was hitting me up. He had been blowing me up again for a couple weeks. Hey, how you doing? I need some work, this and that. And I told him like my season's down, but if you come and help me pack up and do this and that, I'll pay you, a weekly salary to do that stuff, and help me get my vehicles kind of secure. And I wanted to like winterize my boat and stuff like that, And I was like, I'll pay you to do all these things too, So I got some work, but not work. So I sent him money, and he came out. And Brandon's a pretty reliable guy, man, to tell you the truth, as far as work goes and stuff like that. And he came
Oh,
out
so you paid to have him come up. That's cool.
every time, be honest with you. But I've known him for years, and he would do the same for
Right,
me,
right.
man. You know what I mean? So if he had the money, he'd do it for me. So he always, there's been times where the shoe's been on the other foot in our life too, and he's always done it for me, to be honest. But anyways, yeah, so he came out, and then he was here like freaking 3 days, man, and then after that he was going off some chick for a while, which came to
So
be.
is that when he met Misty? Is when he got up there, or did he know
Yes,
her?
ma'am. Yeah, well, as far as that's what I thought then, but I don't know now. I feel like there's a little history or something, but I could be completely wrong there. I just feel like way too many snails underneath one rock that know each other not to be coincidental.
Right. Um, was Brandon clean and doing good and that kind of thing
I
when
mean, allegedly, but I don't you aim, but allegedly, I live in Montana. Most guys out here just smoke pot. It's legal here. And,
right.
usually you can tell if they're tweakers or not, to me, no, he wasn't doing anything when he got here.
Did that change at all?
Yep. I usually.
Yep. And you said that just after a few days he was just off, taking off, running around with
Oh,
Misty.
it turned into like gone a month or something after a few days. And it turned
Yeah.
into like me and my wife doing all the shit that I sent him to come and help him do. And it was me and her just doing it ourselves, and it was a ton of work too to get everything kind of squared away, I guess you could call it. But so I was kind of pissed with him, and then I ignored him for a while, and so then he ended up staying with Misty, and that's how he ended up staying with Misty, and me and her, and that's why we don't see eye and eye, me and her, because some people are susceptible to things, and a lot of people are susceptible to drugs, and Brandon didn't go out looking for it like he went out, driving through the ghetto looking for things. But if somebody comes around and he'll run. Like a dog in heat.
Yeah.
So
So at one point, like, so what made you reach out to me and put me in contact with Brandon?
um, watching him melt down trying to get him to talk or help himself in some kind of way. And you seem like a nice person comparatively.
Well, thank you for that. Yeah, I was just, I just want everybody to know, that that's how I was in contact with Brandon. It started out with, you contacting me and asking me if I would talk with him, possibly get him up on a live. It took some time, but I started ending up texting and talking with Brandon, and then he came up on the live on February 24th. And I know you said that at some point, um,
I come to the realization that I think, I've known him so long, we're like kind of like brothers, and he wasn't going to tell me nothing, even if there was something to tell me. So, and I've talked to some media, some social media people, and I've talked to detectives and that, and they're always, it's more of an interrogation, and I noticed like his phone calls, it was always an interrogation. I used to think in my head, people approach him a little differently, might get some more answers.
right. And
And,
me and Brandon did kind of hit it off when we started talking on the phone
and
as
I,
far as
and
like
I,
getting along and stuff. And I
and I
know
knew
that,
I knew y'all would, and then he flipped, man. Like he was so proactive about going on and doing it and all the time, and he was starting to talk and loosen up as he was talking. So and I was, for me, I was feeling good for him because you know I don't know if you guys ever been through any kind of traumatic situations, I guess you could call it, but they're not fun, and I've been through them myself in life. So I was just like, as a human, trying to be humanitarian and just trying to help in any way, just trying to help somebody, whatever it might be, however you might need to soothe or heal,
right. Because you
so
told me you've sat down and talked with Brandon
for 2 years
many,
on
many,
and
many
off,
times about all of this stuff, about
many,
Michael's
many
mom, about
times.
his family, about his abduction, about everything. I mean, you have really, really put the heat on Brandon, to so to say, several times, even to, you know, make sure that he's telling you the truth, because that's what you want, is for him to tell you the truth of what happened. I'm not saying you think that he was lying to you when he was talking to you. I'm just saying that's all you wanted, because you have a family, and you have kids, and you wanted to make sure that, you
I
know,
live in, and I'm from a small area, and I don't, even though I've known someone for that long, I don't need to know anyone that if they are guilty of something like that. So, and it's basically, yeah, just I more, I need to know too because I don't want to be a sociable, and because I've spoken with him a few times since he's taken off, and he won't tell me where he's at or not, obviously, but and he's not open, nowhere near open like he used to be either. So,
do you think it's
so
strange that he's not telling you like where he's at?
I mean, given the circumstances, I mean, I look at it from both ways. I mean, if you were innocent, I don't know. I guess when you go, I don't know how to think about it. I used to look at it. I don't know. Like I told you the other day, like a lot of it ain't making no sense to me anymore. So, and at a certain point, a guy's just going to use his own judgment. I don't need, you know, I don't
Hmm.
need to find duffel bags and ropes. You know what I mean? So, at a certain point, I've seen enough and I've tried enough and I've seen reactions and I've heard the conversations and stuff like that. And at a certain point, you just got to use your own judgment, I guess. I'll answer it that way.
That's fine. Let's go back just a little bit. Tell me about what happened just a couple of days after Brandon did the live with me. Can you just go into detail, like about the truck and just
Uh,
him taking off, all that stuff?
You mean when me, you, and him were supposed to do the live, and it took me like 2 weeks to get him to do it, and then he ended up doing it with Misty that occasion.
Well, when I did my live with Brandon, when he came up on panel, what happened a couple of days later? Like he took off.
So I was pretty pissy with him because he blew me off that night, and I gave him an ear beating, I guess you could call it. And me and Missy don't get along either, so it was very hard having a relationship with him when he was out here last time, to tell you the truth. And um, so I basically had threatened him, to be honest with you, sounds petty, but this is just the truth. I was like, well, you can bring me my damn truck back and your ass can walk around with that weird bitch. Is literally what I said. Excuse my language.
Yeah.
That's what I said. And, because like I said, I wasn't getting help, and that's what he came out here to do, was to help. And he was supposed to be working, he was supposed to be helping, and that's not what he was doing. And he was personally, on a personal level, treating me like shit. I'm not petty. Like, I'm a grown man. I'm not gonna cry about it. I judged him on it, and so I reacted in a certain way too, where I kind of just shunned him too as well. But yeah, just a couple days later, because I was giving him shit, and then so he shows up, and I've been telling him for a couple of days, just trying to get light a fire in his ass to get him to do the right thing. So as petty as it sounds, and I had no real intentions on doing it either, because if somebody works for something, you give them something, you can't just take it back. So it's not right in any means. It's his property at a certain point. But I was trying to be petty and make him do what he's supposed to be doing. And so I was trying to, kind of like you would hold a kid's video game over their head.
Right.
And I guess you could call it kind of way. And so, anyways, yeah, he calls me in the morning, and which was weird because, like I said, at the time it was very hard getting a hold of him. And he calls me up and he's like, "What are you doing? We're bringing the truck." And I'm like, "Dude, I was just trying to get you on the live and trying to get you over here and this and that. And you pissed me off, but don't worry about it." And the next thing I know, he's at the house and drops it off, and he tells me he's going to go riding snowmobiles, sledding. And I'm like, "Oh yeah, where at?" And he said Kalispell. And I was like, "What the fuck you going?" Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. I was like, "Why the hell you going?
You're fine.
Why the hell you going like Kalispell?" 'Cause, I mean, I live in Livingston, Montana. And anyways, but I was like, okay, and cause they do random shit like that, I guess, and I don't. There's mountains right here, but anyways, so I thought it was weird. So then he's like, "Yeah, my friend's here to pick me up from Idaho," and then there was like 5 minutes there. I was like, "Oh, okay, hey," so hey, I'm Eric, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm Dan," and okay, I guess y'all have fun on your escapades. And they left, and he told me he'd be back. The He'd be back in a few days, and he's been back.
Yeah, he has not been back. Yeah, and at one point, didn't he reach out to you and ask you to come and get him in Missoula because
Right.
his friends that he went skiing or snowmobiling with or whatever wasn't going to bring him back home?
And the reason I wouldn't do that is because he would have came out here and would have been using with what's her name.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't really know the situation about where he's at right now until me and you spoke more.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe that would have been the better option, hindsight being. But at the time, is because I didn't want him to come back out here and use drugs and Misty. And
Right.
so
Well,
I
and it was
thought
also
leaving.
like
I
a
thought leaving.
5-hour drive and like over 200 miles to like go get him too. So there was that.
And I was working, and I'll tell you, it was a couple of times he'd asked me to, and I was like, why don't you have your buddy bring you back over? And man, he came and got you, knowing he had to bring you back, evidently. And so it was just kind of a weird situation. So I don't know if it's like he left to take off, maybe, and then he wanted to leave, so he was like, "Come and get me," because
Yeah.
why wouldn't your ride bring you back?
Right. And you've even told me whenever you try talking to Brandon or whatever, this guy Eric that he's with, which is his old landscaping buddy or whatever, he's acting like an ass on the phone and stuff when you
Yeah,
guys are
when,
trying
when
to have
I
conversations.
when I just try to have I guess a heart to heart, like 'cause I still try to, any chance I get, I'm always questioning him and asking him stuff, or because I just want him either way. Everything needs to be corrected and rightened. I guess everything needs to be made right, and eventually it's gonna be made right. So
And
to
you're
me,
saying that like Eric is acting like he doesn't want Brandon talking to you on the phone, and he's even gotten mad and told
yeah,
Brandon like,
yeah.
"I'm gonna smack the piss out of you if you don't shut up."
I swear I've heard a couple smart ass comments like that before. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what I was hearing. And what? Because I've gave and then I started like me and you talked about, but I don't want to bring it up because you told me not to use those, that situation. But
Right.
then I started
Right.
teasing him, calling him
Thank
broke.
you.
Yeah, so then I started teasing him about that. And then if you want to comment on that or something, maybe if somebody's asking or
No,
whatever.
we're not going to talk about that
Okay.
one.
Okay. So then, I started teasing him, what are you guys really doing kind of deal, And because yeah, it sounded like, a couple over there. It sounded like if you're a bill collector and the husband's in the background yelling at you, like, oh fucking.
Right, right. Like he's with somebody that's just, yeah, like what is it? Why doesn't he want, why, first of
I don't
all,
I asked him if he's
didn't he
against.
bring him home? And then why doesn't he want anybody to talk? Why doesn't he want Brandon talking with anybody? And then when you're talking to Brandon specifically about Michael or the case or whatever, he seems to even get a little bit more irritated with the situation and tells Brandon, be quiet, shut up, don't say nothing. And I think that stuff is suspicious. And I feel that way.
from
I think
from
that's
both
really
from
suspicious.
from both sides point of view, I guess from a criminal side. I would say, obviously, if you were guilty of something and about somebody, you would probably say the same thing. And it's kind of like if you both rob a bank and somebody's asking about the bank, of course your partner's gonna be like, "Shut the fuck up, dude," And
Yeah.
so, I mean, yeah, I kind of see it that way in a way.
So check it slow down while you're talking.
And secondly, I see it as, dude, your attorney told you not to talk, so shut up.
Yep.
So, but not just that, with other things, with other innuisms on top of that is what makes you kind of lean toward the, okay, what we got going on. So,
So, or you
I
got
don't,
something going on?
no, I was saying that was part of
Oh,
my statement.
oh.
So that's
So,
what my mind does. My mind's like, okay, what's going on? Because when you add up the other innuisms with that, and you're like, okay, so it does look shady in a way.
yeah, to me, it does. You and I have talked about it, and yeah, looking at it from a criminal point of view, maybe his buddy's just like, hey man, don't talk about that, whatever, because his attorney has told him not to be talking about it. Um, uh, so let's talk about what we came here really to talk about, and that's the fact that March 9th, I woke up to a message from your wife, Jessica, and I was in shock. And I called you first thing in the morning, holding my coffee in my hand. And yeah, kind of go into detail about what happened on March 8th. Um, Speaking of like when law enforcement's recent trip up there to Montana.
So I had got a phone call. I'd actually noticed a couple unmarked cars following me around, and I was like, okay, this is strange. And then because like I don't do anything wrong. I don't go to bars or anything. I go to work. I go home. So I was like, okay, this is strange. So me and my wife pulled in to eat, and her friend, and we were going to eat. And as we stopped, my phone rang, and those cars had pulled in on both sides. And then, I didn't add it up at the time. Tell you the truth, that the people I was talking to was actually, I think, parked beside me. I can't deny or confirm that, to be honest with you, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was. And
Yeah.
like I was telling you, but I was like, after the fact, I realized that I was like, I think they were like, that was, but anyways, and they had asked me where Brandon was, and
So they surrounded your car.
I think so, but I think they did it without getting out because they seen us fitting to pull in and eat, and
Oh, I see.
I don't know. It was weird, but yes, it was several vehicles, and I've actually been pulled over a couple of times since then, and asked the same things, which I don't know where he went. Last thing he told me he was going snowmobiling in Kalispell, and then I know he ended up in Idaho. And then I heard he was in Washington and then back in Idaho and then going back to his dad's. I've heard all kind of stuff, so I don't know. He's all
You
over the
hear
place.
all of that from Brandon?
Yeah, so he's all
He
over the
mentioned
place.
going back to his dad's house.
Possibly, he's something about. I said, "Well, do you want to come back and work?" And trying to just get him back out here, maybe give his head straight to do the right thing. And then and he was like, "Yeah, well, yeah, maybe for a rendezvous, I thought about going to Dad's." And I was like, "Okay." And then, but then that was the end of it. There's been nothing else said about it. And like I've sent you messages and just trying to prove to you what I'm trying to tell you. Like I don't get anything out of it but like babbling.
Right. I mean, we've been talking for a while now, and you know, I have no reason not to believe anything that you're saying. So, what did law enforcement say to you about Brandon?
That they had a plea deal for him and a warrant, and if he didn't sign it, they were going to come back with a warrant in 48 hours.
What was the plea deal?
Not to get the death sentence and the death penalty. She would guarantee you wouldn't get the death penalty. Um, they said that Michael's mom was sick, and they wanted to find Michael's body before anything happened to the mother, and and so they could be buried together. And gave me a story like that, and like I told him the truth, it was like I swear, dude. Like last he told me he was going to Kalispell, and they were going to snowmobile, and that was like weeks ago. And if it was for anything else, if he stole a car, so I'm just being honest with you. Like I wouldn't, I'd be like, whatever, do your own job, right?
Right.
But for something like this, it's like there's got to be some clarity, man. You know what I mean? So so
Did
that's kind
they
of.
did they have you contact Brandon?
They had me try, and I had him trying to merge with the detective a couple of times, and I'll be honest with you, he did engage, and he did agree to merge a phone call, but they wouldn't answer. And then like an hour later, they called me back, and then he was being some kind of way once they called me back. So
Oh
like he
wow.
just yeah, he wasn't willing to engage no more, But at very first, I was like, dude, I just got surrounded with cops. They got a plea deal. They're talking about getting freaking death penalty. And I was like, you need to get on the phone because he didn't want to get on the phone at first. Then he finally got on the phone because my wife's friend called off her phone, and of course he answers that one. So I'm like, dude, like, look, here's the deal. But yeah, the female detective said she had she was here with the state's attorney, and there was a couple detectives, state's attorney from over there in Idaho, and it might have been the sheriff from there too. I'm not 100% sure, or
Sure.
some kind of law enforcement
Yeah.
representative other than an attorney. So I don't know. Maybe it was JD himself. I'm not sure, but there was another representative for the local agency there with them, and then there was the state's attorney that's overseeing the case, and I think it was Juanita. The other was her, and there was a metal detective too. But I don't know if it was Chris or
Mhm.
who it was. I can't remember the metal detective who it was, but there was three of them. And they said
Yeah.
they flew over, which was weird. What's really weird about it too, Sam, is he had just left like 2 days before that, 3 days or something like that. Or maybe it was like
the day before.
was it like the day before some shit, just
Yeah, it was the day before.
So wait, back up. So you're telling me that now I thought he went on that ski trip and then
no, it
didn't
was
come back at all.
no, he hasn't been back as far as I know.
I thought you just said that he came back
Nope,
just like the
no.
day before.
No, he had left for that trip like a day or two before they showed up
Oh,
over there.
gotcha. Okay. Sorry. I was confused. I'm like, wait, what?
So then that was part of the reason why I started batting an eye. That was one of the super red flags.
Yeah.
There's been several of them, but it's kind of like how he hit you with the Batman comment. It's like, okay,
Right.
okay, Batman, how'd you know how to fly out 24 hours before these guys are coming?
Yeah, that's crazy. Did they say what they wanted from Brandon in order to get that plea deal?
They wanted to know where the body was.
They wanted to know where Michael was.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, I know this is a very sensitive question. I know this upset you a lot. You said that you were, upset, puking all night long after you talked to the detective.
Well,
And you said that you'd asked the detective a specific question about whether whether the detective thought Brandon had anything to do.
and what part of it that he had to do with it. Yes, ma'am.
Right.
If he
And
thought he had something to do with it, then I wanted to know if they wanted any more help, what part that they thought he had to do with it, if that she could tell me.
what'd she say?
I don't know if I should answer that, to be honest with you, with his legal stuff going on. I mean,
I have
but
permission to
but it
have
but
you
it's
here.
but to be
So,
honest with you, it's nothing no different than it was in some of the videos.
right. And I actually have that video. So I will just add that. And
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not really doing any injustice, or I'm not like spilling beans or being a fucking piece of shit either, because excuse my language. But at the same time, yeah, there's like several videos with the same comment on it. So you know what, Sam, I'll just tell you. So she told me, because I told her that it's been driving me nuts, and I needed to know where I stood with him, like personally in life. And it's been driving me nuts, and I've been trying, because I had him out here with me for a while, and I was trying to help, and I'd get him loose, and like I said, it was always like one of those in the ring would come around, and he'd get different, but I'd always get him there. I felt like where he wanted to do the right thing or be a different person, and then something would snap in him, and he'd just go right back to square one. Anyways, so she tells me that he helped bind him, um, bound him up with duct tape, put him in a plastic bag, suffocated him.
yeah, and I know that that is very difficult for everybody here in chat to hear. We have gone over the Stacy Wandra confession footage before, and I will play that real quick just to reiterate the whole conversation that we're having right now. So trigger warning for anybody, but Dan is saying that the detective is saying the same thing that is in this clip. Hold on one second.
When you came back, why did you come back here?
What do you mean, came back there?
Yeah, I mean, like the next day, like you shared with us that, Brandon put him in the guest room, bound up, but then the next day they moved him back here. Why? Why come with him?
That's a great question. I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
I don't have an answer for that.
What vehicle did they use?
She left me with a Lexus, I believe, that day. So
I do know that this is very, very difficult, everybody, to talk about. And something else, I want to say that, we will get to some questions if Dan's willing. I know people are asking questions. I see them. Thank you guys so much for being respectful in chat. Dan is here to talk about things, and I'm very grateful that you're here, Dan. Thank you so much for, being here and talking. I know this is not easy for you. I know that you have, been very close with Brandon for a long time. And I really know that this is not easy. It wasn't easy hearing from the detective,
Well,
what she's
you watch a lot of A&E shows growing up, but to end up in one's kind of weird for a while, and it's kind of
right, because nobody wants to believe that they've known somebody for a long time and that they can be involved in something like this. It's a tragedy that Michael, 5 years old, is abducted and then later murdered and buried, and then taken somewhere else from that place. So, and we don't know where Michael is to this day. And we have heard several times, that maybe maybe Brandon is the one that knows where Michael is. And now you're saying that part of this plea agreement is tell them where Michael is. And then I want to play just one more clip and then we'll get back to some questions. This is a clip from Brandy. Just want everybody to hear this real quick. And Brandon, if you're listening, here's a message from Brandy.
And Brandon, you know what happened to our beautiful baby. Whether you were directly involved, but you need to start talking. You need to come forward. Quit lying, quit hiding. Please tell us where Michael is. Let our family have some rest, please. Let us bring our baby home. We've worked tirelessly, endlessly. Law enforcement, stop protecting these criminals. It's time to tell the truth. It's time to own up. It's time to find Michael and bring him home and stop your BS.
It's so difficult for me to hear that right now, knowing she's so sick. I almost teared up right there. It's so difficult to listen to Brandy. I've heard her, plea with Brandy. I've heard her beg, Stacy Wandra. I know you said that you and Jessica, you guys have watched YouTube. You guys sat down recently, watched those confession footage that Stacy Wandra had and stuff. So when law enforcement comes and they're talking to you, they're telling you about this plea deal and everything else. I know everything really upset you. You ended up having a lot of emotional feelings about everything. Can you talk to us and tell us about, talking with Brandon afterwards? How did you guys' conversations go? I know you said you were up with him talking on the phone till almost 2 or 3 in the morning after law enforcement surrounded your car.
He was just more or less concerned about what everybody was saying about him, honestly. And we were just going over, accusations and what I was told. And of course, I mean, really just that's kind of what we went over. And I was actually trying to tell him he should come back out here, and I was actually willing. See, that's another reason why I didn't shoot over there and pick him up too when he was trying to come get me. That's another reason why, out of the many.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like, okay, I was willing to come and get him to come out here and talk to the detectives while they were in town, but he didn't want me to. And then it was like, right after they left, he wanted me to. And it was like, no, dude, I'm not playing these games, right? So it's, and and it's like you're not really looking like you're trying to help yourself, but at the same time, I understand how it goes too. There's been a lot of men that tried to do the right thing in history and talk and ended up with life sentences for somebody else's shit, So it's
Right.
like rolling the dice, man, and being from both sides of the world, I guess you could say, in my past, and just being honest, my
Well,
life
no, I
wasn't.
mean, you know how it goes. You've been in prison. I'm sure you know people that have done things that are guilty, people that aren't guilty. Plus, being Brandon's friend, it's got to be really hard
I always
to.
owned up to my shit, but mine was always, I went in for. I'm not supposed to use the word you said earlier, but I'll just say speed and marijuana back when that was illegal. It was like get a
Yeah.
life sentence for weed still when I went in. But anyways, So and theft, a bunch of retail stuff that comes with having a drug problem, and that's pretty much what mine's a wrap of. And so that's what my time was for. And but I have been housed with a lot of weirdos, yes, ma'am, and that are just life criminals that weren't rehabilitated, that just are just, I guess you could say, animalistic in a lot of ways. And I got kind of a good sense of character living with 800 guys for years, and those kind of guys too. And there's 700 and something of them at the prison I was at. And
And he's talking about RSOs and stuff. So just to let you guys know, he calls them weirdos. So I and that's okay. Call them whatever you want to call them. We
is
have to
that
keep
what
it
you got to
whatever.
say on there? RSO.
Yeah, that's a registered S offender. So
I
you can
always
use the
think you're
word
referring to
RSO
sheriff.
or weirdo, whichever one you want to call them. But yeah,
Well,
being
weirdos,
housed with that many is
pedo,
crazy.
pedos and rapos and all that. Weirdo.
Well,
That's
don't
creepy.
say those words, Dan.
Oh, I didn't.
That's why I just said say weirdos or
Oh,
RSOs.
oh. I heard that. That's my dyslexia. I'm sorry.
You're good. It's all right. It really is. Now, after law enforcement comes up there, now it's a couple of detectives. It's the state's prosecuting attorney from Idaho. You said there was like a sheriff or law enforcement. We were told by Misty that it was a sheriff from Livingston, Montana. You're not
There, there,
sure,
there probably was a local. I'm sure. Anytime
right?
agencies go to another town, I'm sure they're catered or chauffeured by a local. I'm sure.
And I know you said that you were up, all night long with Brandon talking to him on the phone, and then you guys stopped talking. You weren't feeling very good
Because
till
here, because
very
here,
early
because
this morning, and
here's what happened. It took hours to get him to start talking.
mhm,
And then and it turned into a late night because it was like 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock in the damn morning before he would actually start having a real conversation
mhm,
and or engaging at all. It was always, hold on, I'll call you back, or this or that, or just complete ghosting me. For like a couple hours. I mean, like, seriously, I had to have two of my friends text him off his phone, like, "Hey, dude, there's detectives here saying they're fitting to arrest your ass." Because he just wouldn't answer my damn phone call. Because I'm always, like I said, I'm like a big brother. I'm always grilling his ass, man. Like, I need to know what's going on. You know what I mean?
right. And I don't blame you. You want to know. And didn't at some point you call him and his phone was like either off or you
Yeah,
maybe
he
disconnected
turned
or
it.
something?
Yeah, he turned it off for a while. Is what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, I know when I tried calling him afterwards, it was saying something like uh this phone. Oh my gosh, what was it saying? It was like it wasn't like your normal near. This phone's been disconnected. It said something. Jessica, do you remember exactly what it said?
The phone number could not be reached at this time.
Yeah, I was saying something like it was unreachable, like the number you were trying
Reachable.
to.
That's what it
Yeah,
was. This
yeah,
phone is unreachable at this time.
unreachable.
I know talking with Misty, we all actually thought we had been blocked. And then I tried using my husband's phone because he doesn't know my husband's phone and it gave me the same thing. So then we kind of figured out, okay, we're not all blocked. Something's just going on with this phone. He's either silenced it, he's turned it off or something else. And then here recently when we spoke over the phone, um you had found an empty phone case, which we're wondering whether or not he got a new phone or something.
So to be honest, that bag had been in my storage since he had came out. Uh, when when he came out the last time, when he was supposed to come out and
Oh,
help us pack up. So,
I don't remember.
or no, or was that from the first
That
time?
was from the first time.
Was that from the first time?
Yeah, when you lived his
Okay,
the first time.
yeah, it must have been. So Jessica
okay,
said,
my bad. Then I misunderstood. So
no,
we're not
I
talking
think
about.
no, but there was a question you had asked me before about when he first came out to work back in 22. if he had changed his cell phone. And I didn't have an answer for you during the time you had asked me that. I wasn't aware. I mean, how would I know, right? And then I had found, and I told you, bad as it sounds, because given what's going on, he had a couple bags in my storage, and recently when I was telling you this, and so I went through them, and there was a cell phone box in there in the bag that he did come out with originally, and that's why I told you, like, Sam, I don't want you thinking I'm lying to you, but at the time I didn't have an answer,
Right.
but I went through this bag and there was a new cell phone box in there without a phone in it. So for an A14.
Thank you, Mandy, for the super sticker, hun. Thanks everybody for the super stickers, super chats. Thank you, Yaya, for being a member for 6 months. I really do appreciate it. I'm sorry that I didn't do my. We're gonna dance in our chairs just a little bit for a second, Dan, because my, yep, my subscribers, my people, my chat, they're super. I just want to tell everybody thank you guys so much for being here, and thank you guys all for your support. Sorry, I know that gets loud, but yeah, and yeah, that you were able to confirm that. I mean, we don't know for a fact that just because there was a new case that he did at the time, but you did find a box,
that was
in a bag at the time in 2022 when he was there. And yeah, I had asked, do you know if when Brandon came up there, if he had gotten a new phone?
Yeah, and he gave my son an iPhone back then too when he had moved over here. Because he had like this red iPhone. My son's favorite color is red, and Brandon being a softie, Brandon was like, "Yeah, buddy, here you go. I want a new phone anyway." So I don't, like Jess was just saying, that could have been the reason why. But he had both phones. Yes, yeah. This is like 3 years ago too. So I'm just trying to remember the details. So, and yes, he did have two phones when he came out, but whether one was new or which one was new, I couldn't have told you that answer when you asked me. And digging through that bag, and when I was going through my storage, getting ready to clean, do spring throw out shit kind of deal. Um, I seen a duffel, and not a duffel, like a zip up suitcase, like a travel bag, and open it up, just be honest. And it wasn't my bag, but I went in there just given the circumstance. And yes, there was a cell phone box in great condition. Whether he brought that with him, I mean, to look at it at first glance, that was what it would seem like.
Yeah.
So,
well, thank you for clarifying that. My bad. I thought we were talking about here recently. So a question I accidentally missed that I had is, do you know what the warrant was going to be for when they came back to pick him up? When they said, like, we're coming back in 48 hours.
So the ultimatum, you're asking basically what they said the ultimatum was if you don't sign this fucking warrant in 48 hours, you're going to die. You're going to get the death penalty.
Oh, damn. For what? Did they mention the charge?
First degree murder.
Wow. And you're pretty much, a lot of what you have said, and matches what Misty has, told me about the prosecutors and stuff going up there. And I'm done with all of my questions. So the only thing to ask you really is now is just, what are your feelings about everything? How do you, like, are you still talking with Brandon? How's your guys' relationship? How are you feeling about, everything that's gone on and happened? Like, where are you sitting at right now?
Not as comfortably with him as I was. I will put it that way. You have to understand something. I didn't know Brandon during those years. I was away, so I don't know And when he came back to work with me at 22, it was like reminiscing with a middle school buddy. It's that kind of
Yeah.
feeling. It's like they don't do no wrong, right? And so it's like, you know what I mean? And it was like, so I was like, get the fuck out of here with that. That was what I was saying. Ain't no fucking way, man. Because I've seen him around my kids and all this stuff. There's no way. I've known him when he was younger. I've never known him or ever heard of any girls say anything weird about him or anything
Yeah.
like that. Brandon tried to do this or that. I've never heard any of that my whole life about him, ever. So it was very, very, very hard for me to accept how someone that I've always known as a very sweet person that would do anything that was capable of doing anything like that. But like for instance, like I put my bulldog. He can be an asshole. I have a big old pit bull, and he goes to timeout, and he goes in the closet. And he's trained to do that. I'll say, go get your ass in the closet. Go to timeout, and because he'll bite my little dog, and he's not supposed to do that. And Brandon, come on, Danny. He's been in there for 10 minutes, man. Let him out, man. He's always been that way around me, and always been that way with my kids. So it was very hard for me to believe that Brandon's abducting children and they're killing kids out there in Idaho and shit. It was just like, what the fuck. And
Right.
so it was very hard for me to wrap my head around it, man. At first I was defensive. I was honest about all my questioning, like when I talked to detectives and stuff, but in a defensive way. I was,
Mhm.
but trying to get them to communicate. But like I said, I understand how that could be too, because your words can and will be used against you.
Right.
So I understand why a person would or wouldn't do it. So when I try to believe a person, knowing that too, with that kind of equation, to me, it was just like, this is BS. If anything, he was Ponzi. If you want I don't see him that or he was just so freaking drugged out or tweaked out or whatever for those years that I was away that I just don't understand I didn't understand his character then. So I
Yeah.
can't.
Has he ever said anything to you like suspicious that made you go, "What'd you just say?"
There's been innuisms, you can say, yeah. And there's been cliffhangers. There's been comments where I've been, like 30 minutes later going, what the fuck they say that for like that?
Damn. Yeah. And
Yeah.
there's
But
some people that
you've also
messages
spoke to
with him
him.
and talks with him, and he sends like these really weird innuendos, or
That's
he
what I
says
mean.
some really
Yeah.
crazy things in his text or emojis and stuff, and it leaves you sitting there going like, what the F are you even talking about right now, Brandon? That has nothing to do with any of the like I woke up the other morning
You'd be a good
and I
attorney.
hadn't yeah, and I haven't talked to him very much. And I woke up the other morning and he was telling me about how he's gonna, start uh doing some motorcycle stuff, motocross stuff, and how he was gonna make it someday and like all of this other stuff after that. And I'm just like, what are you talking about? You know? But yeah, it's just all kind of crazy. I mean, I can totally understand how you're on the teeter
I
totter
can I can
daughter
tell you
because she's
this.
close.
Well, I mean, yeah, we're close, but close enough to where I still want to know you if you're guilty of something like that. Fuck no. I disown my own kid if you did some shit like that. Um, but what was damn it? I had a point for you too, Sam. Um,
That's all right. I know you get nervous and you forget things and stuff.
no,
Do
no,
you
here we go. I got it. I found it. What really started shifting my perspective back on the original question? What really started shifting my perspective, and I've told him this, so I'm not
Mhm.
talking shit. Yeah, oh yeah, dude, of course. And is Stacy's comments. Like I said, there, I've been in and out of prison when I was a young man, and people lie nobody's guilty or you're guilty for everything. There's a lot of guys that own up all their shit and they go do their time and they never bullshit. And yes, sir, and I did it. And they take their lick and they serve their community and they do their time. They get out and they go on with their life. I was one of those people. And then there's people that are just in and out of prison their whole life. They never change. They do the same shit and they have the same behaviors. There's one freaking thing they don't fucking do. They don't make up a story about watching their wife and their friend bury children.
Right.
So when I finally seen that video, because you got to understand, like, I've been watching these videos since I got the original one from his mother, which was like y'all's Channel 8 clips out there or something, or in Kuna, whatever their news channel is over there.
Or something. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a couple of those original news clips, you know. It was a couple of those, is what the first ones were for. The one where JD did with the 4 suspects and da da da. And it was like, so I've been watching them since then, you know, and I've been dealing with this since then, and even back then, I told Brandon, because he tried to tell me this dude's fucking crazy, he's lying. I was like, look, dude, I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't give a fuck how crazy you are. You're not gonna say something like that to somebody and make it up.
Right. What was your reaction when you heard Stacy talk about Brandon binding, Michael up, and then hear
Tongue
it
biting,
from, the detective too?
tongue biting,
Yeah.
gut
Yeah,
curling.
that's not easy to hear.
It's not easy to swallow either. You know, it's kind of like you got to shave off all these feelings for someone that you build over the years. It's kind of like just a weird. It's been a weird transition, but it's not a hard one at all. Trust me, but a weird one. And man, you know, we come to the end of this. You know what really makes me linger on this. I'm a gambling guy, and I feel like they're Ponzi-ing the guy, and
Oh,
I
that they
feel
could be setting Brandon up.
and that's why they wanted to take him to Kuna that night and all that stuff. Yeah, that's why they chose that night. And Brandon had been asking them for months to go get that car. Why does
Yeah.
Stacy didn't want to take him that night? So they could
Yeah.
put whatever. And I think that's why the dogs hit over there, because those fucks put something over there that night. And his dumb ass being inside taking a shower, whatever he was doing, like y'all said, he didn't know what they were doing. I
Yeah.
think,
I mean, we don't know, we don't know. We are not privy to any information,
and
but we do
I
know
don't
that
know.
law
I don't know
enforcement
either.
thinks he has knowledge.
I
And
don't know either. I'm not law enforcement. I've watched this stuff over and over and over, and I also lived with Brandon during all this outbreak. So
well, yeah, and that's why it's so great to have you up here and talk about Brandon, and even describing him in the way you did, like, okay, Dan, can you let the puppy out of the closet? I mean, seems like a nice guy. He's caring for animals and
but
stuff.
I mean,
So
so did Ted Bundy. Look how many fine
yeah,
women he could work. You know, I mean, it's I just don't know, man. You know,
I know. I
and,
know
and
you're on the fence. You've been on the fence for a while, and that's okay. It's just great
like
hearing
if
you here.
if that video wasn't so grainy and I could say, oh fuck, that is Brandon, you know, it would be a slam dunk, you know. Or if it wasn't like everything really pointing toward the other three more or less, and if it wasn't like so convenient that the registered RSOs live next door, and if it wasn't so convenient, man, I just think there's a way bigger picture, and I think that everybody's trying to fucking put it on the fucking Ned Flanders. You know what I mean? And
Right.
I think,
And we've talked about this. We've talked about, I'm going to go ahead and say it and talk about it, but your words will get me in trouble on YouTube. So Dan and I have talked about, whether Michael could have been sold, whether or not he could have been trafficked, because there's some kind of maybe trafficking going on with Adrian Lucian. And, we've talked and speculated, theorized, nothing factual about those things, because they are involved with a lot of RSOs. I mean, I connected them to 16 that I was able to connect to them on YouTube, but there are many, many more. So, thank you so much for becoming a member, Mandy.
I'll tell you the one thing I really
Hold
didn't.
on one second, honey.
Okay.
Spirit Seeker Squad, thank you so much for becoming a member. I love having you here, hun. Thank you. Thank you so much. I cannot do this without everybody's support, and I appreciate you so much. And that, and I know that, you and I have talked to, you've mentioned Brandon's mom, and that you talk with Brandon's mom. What is Brandon's mom thinking about all this stuff?
It's been a while. Well, I used to kind of get on her ass for a while because I was trying to actually, like I said, when I was being, I guess I can say a little more blind. When he saw this first broke out, I was trying to help him get an attorney with his mom. His mom and him didn't want nothing to do with it. And his mom basically, she wanted him to come back and talk to cops for a while. And he didn't want to, because when he came out here originally, he had been on probation for a pot charge. And he didn't want to go back because he thought they were going to put him in jail because he ran from probation or whatever. So, and that's why he didn't want to go back that time. It wasn't that, because I mean, he was talking to him on the phone and stuff all the time, but they weren't going to expedite him from over here for absconding, I guess you call it. So that's why he didn't go back. His mom was all pissy about that. And I have only talked to his mom maybe 3 times in the past year.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because I said a couple things along the lines of, I thought she was being a piece of shit, Mom. And she didn't like what I had to say, and we kind of quit talking.
Do you know anything? Do you know if Brandon has an attorney right now or not?
I'm not 100% sure on that.
Yeah, I know Misty said that he got an attorney, and then, when they offered him this deal, I heard he was supposed to go down to Fruitland with his mom, with his attorney, talk with them. Do you think that it's a little bit odd or suspicious that he doesn't just take his attorney, if he has one, or if he doesn't have one, whichever way, that he just doesn't go in and go talk to law enforcement? I mean, if he's telling you that he hasn't done anything, then why not
I've
go
thought
in
so.
and clear his name?
Yeah, I've thought so and that's actually what led me into doing what I'm doing too, a little more, and which actually pushed him away from, I guess, us being kind of friends, but given circumstances, whatever. But I was pretty pushy about it, like way more than his mom was. But his mom did try to get him a few times, and I did, and I've always thought that it was very suspicious that you wouldn't go have, if he had an attorney, which there was a time he did, that you wouldn't go do a statement with him, or at least go down. And I tried to tell him to go. I said, dude, go do a damn polygraph, go do whatever.
Do you know if Brandon's done a polygraph?
He said he's never done one.
I don't think so.
Yeah, Stacy Wandra said that he took a polygraph and passed one, and that
Yeah,
Sarah and Brandon took theirs and that they failed.
that guy looks like he believes his own shit though.
I know he's a liar. That's why I was asking you if you knew whether or not he had taken, a polygraph. But yeah, I would much rather take your word for it than his. I don't know if you're on a time limit, Dan. Are you and Jessica on a time limit? I know chat has been very patient. They've been asking some questions. I just haven't asked you any. Would you mind answering some questions for chat? And no worries if you can't. If you don't have time, I just want to ask because I know they're kind of anxious and have their own questions. Or do you need to get down or have anything else to say?
No, we can talk for a little bit.
Nice. All right. So chat, please stay respectful. I'm going to
Haven't even looked at that one time, FYI.
And I love that too. I know it got Misty a little bit sidetracked the other night, so I appreciate that actually. And Jessica, thank you so much for being there. I know you are, talking to people in chat, answering questions along the line. I've seen you in there a few times. I really appreciate that. So if you guys have any questions for Daniel, Jessica, now's the time to ask. I don't want to keep him a lot longer. He does have to get up early in the morning and go to work, but he does have time. So if you guys have any questions, now is the time. Coco Channel says, Dan, did you tell law enforcement about the phone that Brandon gave your son?
No, I just thought about that day I mentioned it to you, Sam.
Okay. Well, thank you for answering. That's the kind of questions you're probably going to get from chat.
And the reason I did, I mean, and I actually had thought about that to reiterate. But what good would it do? It's been gone for years.
We've got Blue Heron here wanting to know, Daniel, have you talked to Brandon's dad about this?
No, I have not had an actual one-on-one with Jason about this. That would be a lie to say yes or yes at all.
And I just thought of a question. Does Brandon know you're doing this live with me?
Yeah, I think I seen the message yesterday. I tried to get him to come on with me too. I knew he was going to tell me, but I was like, dude, you want to get on here or what? Because Misty mentioned my name. Now I got to get on here and defend myself.
Well, we can just both send him links afterwards. Brandon, if you're listening, come on up. Somebody is asking, where's Brandon now? Do you know where Brandon is right now?
Back and forth between Idaho and Washington. That's the best I can tell you, honestly. Because he hasn't specifically told me. I just know that he was in Washington and then in Idaho and then in Washington again and Idaho.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's hanging out with some motocross friends over there in Spokane. Zane Lily, she is my wonderful admin on all my Facebook groups, and she's just saying, all I have to say is thank you so much for coming on the live, helping Michael in the most important thing, and this really helps.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm trying to help Brandon too, man. Like trying to clear some stuff up. Maybe we can get justice one way or the other for the family.
And it wouldn't be a bad idea for both of us to reach out to him and just let him know that, you came up, you did a live. If he wants to come back, he did tell me he'd come back sometime, but our relationship's been a little bit rocky.
Everyone that knows him has said the same thing about that, though. Like I said, it's like he's almost like being monitored or something. It's weird, man.
Yeah. What kind of meltdowns did Brandon have, if any? Has he had like any meltdowns or anything that you've seen?
Yeah, there was a couple times where I was questioning pretty hard after he had a couple hours of questioning already, and we'd be headed home from work or something, or maybe he'd already had a phone call where I'd wake up and just start grilling him on stuff, and but yeah, he just had a few meltdowns on me. A couple times it was almost physical between us, to be honest with you, because we're old buddies, we'll knuckle up and go fishing. So, but
Do you
yeah,
know what the
I was,
playground,
but
like
I
what
chopped it. I just
playground?
chopped it up as just. I mean, I just chopped it up as, like I said, man, I'm an old convict, bro, and I couldn't imagine being accused of like a sex crime or kidnapping a child or raping a woman or, beating up an elderly person, any of that weird shit.
Right.
I couldn't. And so, to me, it was just like, man, like I'd fucking freak out, bro, because I would never do anything like that way. And then I could only imagine if like the news was saying that shit. It's like never going to the bank but getting accused of robbing, and it's like I didn't even get no money. I'm going to jail for it, and it's like, whoa. So I thought he was just kind of like, I chopped it up as it's just a lot to fucking swallow, freaking out. Because, like I said, I don't know Stacy or any of them personally. I've never met them in my life, not one time. I never even knew they existed, or the family of the missing boy, Michael, and then
4 suspects.
4 suspects. Brandon is the only one I've ever met, and before those videos, I wasn't even aware any of those people ever existed. And I don't mean any disrespect by that. I just didn't know them.
No, no, that's actually a good thing to say because I'm sure someone's going to end up asking you if you knew who Stacy, Sarah, or Adrian was. I got a
So,
question here by Blue Heron that says, "Is there a possibility that Misty is hiding Brandon?
say that again.
Is there a possibility that Misty is hiding Brandon?"
Um, I don't honestly believe so because with the feds going by our house and all that stuff, and from how I've communicated, like I was telling you, Sam, I talk to Brandon a couple. Yeah, I get a few bullshit messages a week. I've showed you some of them. So, and nothing clariful or nothing, fruitful
Right.
ever.
And I know law enforcement has spoken with Misty a couple of times. You have talked to law enforcement a couple of times since they left Montana because they're still checking in, asking you guys questions about, Brandon. So, I
I,
know they're
I actually
they're doing
got
everything.
I actually got stopped in traffic last week, and by the end of the ticket, which was only to ask me if I'd seen Brandon or to see if he was in my vehicle, I felt like. So,
Oh wow.
yeah, so even like the locals were still actively looking for him as of like a week ago. So, to answer, I can't remember what member it was. His question is, I highly doubt he's in the area because they were actively looking for him because they stopped me the other day to see if he was in my truck.
Okay. Somebody's saying, what is he driving? He's not driving right now. He doesn't
No.
have a car, but he has been talking about trying to get one here
Yep.
lately on
Yep.
Facebook.
Yep.
Um,
Yes, ma'am. He told me that through a text message too.
yeah, and let
So
me
he,
see.
so he's working. He told me he was working. He won't tell me where. He said he's back and forth, but he's working. And I guess with that guy, they're doing landscaping or something. And he was trying to save up and buy a car. That's the most fruitful conversation, normal conversation I've had with him in like a month.
Yeah, and I'm going to be going live again tomorrow because I want to talk to everybody again about who Brandon is with and put out some more information, some new information, some shocking information that I have been told that I can talk about. Um, it is something you and I have talked about, Dan, but I can't tell you what it is. So you might want to stay tuned tomorrow because you're going to shit your pants. I think a lot of
Well,
people are actually.
I think I'm on the board with it a little bit. I'm probably not bullseye.
No,
But,
it's not what we talked about what happened last week. This is
uh,
a hell of a lot bigger, actually. um,
I've tried to have a conversation with him about that maybe hell a dozen times, and
yeah,
I cannot even get a freaking response about it.
I know, and I don't want to talk about that because I haven't
Yeah,
been able to
that's
verify
what.
it yet because it's only right now came from one person, and he won't verify it with me either, and he's not verifying it with you either. So I don't want to talk about it because I don't want any rumors to like get spread or anything. But yeah, it is not that. Let me see. I was told to find a message by Kelly. Kelly, I don't know what you had put up that I don't know about. But I'm still looking for questions. Yes, justice is coming. It will come. Still looking for questions. If you guys can make sure to try to put a question mark at the end of your sentences so I know you're asking questions, because I've got a lot of comments coming in.
And I haven't read any chats, so just to reiterate,
Yeah.
My screen's not even on my phone, to tell you the truth. So I figured that would be better. If there's stuff you want to ask me. I felt like it would be a better conversation for me not to be trying to read things.
Law enforcement knows exactly where Brandon is, Cinnamon. Guarantee you that.
Well, that's what I would assume as well.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
He thinks that he's hiding, and he's not.
He knows that they know where he's at.
Yeah.
But and Brandon doesn't think he's done anything. I'm just telling you right now, in his brain, he hasn't done anything. So
somebody is wanting to know, does Brandon know what he is facing?
Yes. He was told what he's facing.
He was told what he was facing, yes.
There's a question here by Level Headed. Hey, Levi, thank you for coming in, hun. He says, hi, Daniel. Good to see you. Wonder if you remember our conversation from a few months ago. Brandon is with the same person he has been with for the last couple of years. And Daniel, you know who it is. Yes, his name is Eric. Dan and I he's already said that, Levi, that he's with Eric. It was at the very beginning of the live.
And I do not know Eric. I met Eric for like 5 to 10 minutes that day he came and got Brandon. Matter of fact, you had to send me multiple pictures of him for me to like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, that's the guy.
Right, I did. I'm like, is this a guy? Is this a guy? And you're like, add a hat. So I went and found a picture of him with the hat on. I had to go find that. I'm like, I'm going to go find him with a hat. And then I cropped it. And I'm like, is this him? And yeah, so we know who he is with. Law enforcement knows where he is. CJ says, earlier you mentioned there were moments in conversation where Brandon said something a certain way that made you question things. Is there any specifics you remember in regards to Michael?
No, more of personal questioning. So for an example, Inuisms like I spoke with you about, Sam, like and brother, I swear I'll never be evil again. Or brother, I swear I wish I'd have never met those fucking people. They fucked my life up. Like weird things like that, like how'd they fuck your life up if y'all didn't do nothing wrong? So that's where the brain goes when you hear things like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, things like that. Plus things that I've heard him say one story of and then another story of, like other people, like on lives. I haven't brought some of the things up to him at all about that way, but yeah, but as far as like, he's always told me he didn't even know who the kid was until they got back, and I've done my own presuming, and a lot of shit don't make sense to me. I'll just tell you that.
Yeah. And Rogue, yes. Law enforcement knows where everybody is. Brandon just thinks he's hiding. He just thinks he does. He's not doing a good job.
Well, even when he worked with me, I always assumed that we were always being monitored and stuff, especially during, a case like this or something. One could only presume that, correct? I mean,
Yeah.
I'll probably be a monitor now, it probably hasn't stopped since the beginning. I mean, I don't do anything wrong unless they like watching me do siding and remodel bathrooms. That's all the fuck I do, so.
Miss Tina here says, does Brandon have a good relationship with his daughter?
So he had, no, they do have a good one, but there just ain't one of them. I mean, they're like, I think that he would, and I think that's what a lot of Brandon's problem was growing up. Like those years I was gone, I actually spoke with him about that, and I know that's one of the things that trouble him in life is that the mom, I think her name's Courtney, and because I knew that's how long I've known him, and then she and Brandon do not get along at all, and which is why he doesn't have a relationship with the kid. But Brandon's mom does, and he sees her here and there, stuff like that. As far as I'm unaware of, but nothing like he'd like to.
Yeah. Eric's last name is Kisser, Kiser. He is the guy that Brandon used to do landscaping with and actually ran a business with back, I believe, in 2018, 19 together. And we're going to talk more about that during tomorrow's live, while I also put out some more information. And Spirit Seeker Squad says, thank you, Dan, for sharing what you know and what you can share. Yeah, we all really appreciate you coming here. Everybody was very excited to have you, come up and hear what you have to say. Callie, she is very close to Brandy, and she wants to know, did Brandon ever say anything about what he did the night of Michael's abduction?
Same thing that you guys have heard, honestly, like literally word for word all the time. But
I've got a question to kind of add to this because
tell you the truth, and I'm not just saying this because I've listened to. Well, I haven't listened to everybody. Obviously, I've only listened to what you guys have listened to. But Brandon's story's never changed on me anyway, and I'm. Like I said, I'm old. I've got a past too, and I know how to read a scum. So, and
yeah,
he's never. It's always been the same thing. And matter of fact, I had him sit down and like just try to think about like the hours and the days of coming and the days after and the day of, and I had him writing stuff down and
I
stuff
know
like
that at
that.
one point you did say though that the way he was talking to me up here on my live with him is not the way he normally talks.
No, it sounds like he was being like uh like his handler was telling him to just be blunt and dry. I guess
Oh, okay.
is a good way to say it.
You thought somebody was there telling him what to say or something?
Or what not to say is the vibe I got by how I was listening. Yes.
Okay. Okay, what not to say. Okay. And so a little bit more to add on to like her question and
So like I felt
know,
like he wanted to be more open with you, but whoever the fuck he was around was fucking with him or something, right?
yeah. Yeah, I
Excuse
know.
my
You and I
language.
have talked about it. I just wanted to talk about that, you thought he was acting different with me up here than he normally would, the way he would change his voice, the way he was answering questions, just there was a lot of different stuff. But also around that same time, you and
Could have
Jessica
been
thought that
he could have been
he
spun out too. Who knows?
exactly what I was just gonna say. You and Jessica thought that maybe he had been using during that time. So now did Brandon ever say anything to you about whether or not he stayed the night there at the Wandra's house that night that Michael was abducted, or if he left the house?
So I have asked him all those questions as well. And um he told me, I'm trying to reiterate, so just give me a minute to think on this.
No, you're fine.
Because I don't want to say anything bad, and I don't want to say anything out of
No,
place.
think about your answers, please,
Yeah,
because
so, well, I don't want people to think I'm stacking my answer either, but
no.
I've been through a lot of this, and there's been a lot of it, and let me think. I want to say it was pretty particular to what the main story is. Like, you know, they went, whatever their story was, like they went out to fucking eat or whatever, and then Stacy stayed home, and then her and Adrian got dropped off, and he went and hung out with some family or something, or I could be wrong, but he went somewhere and did something. His baby's mom or some shit there, or,
Yeah, to Applebee's.
and yeah, and I asked him, I was like, well, did y'all really go and eat, or just Sarah go fuck, or what were y'all doing? Brandon actually told me that a lot of the times that Sarah and Adrian and Brandon would take off, that Stacy would let them take off together because Brandon would be around Sarah and Stacy. I mean, Sarah and Adrian. And because they were all, you know, they were all fucking each other. Even Adrian was in on it. And, and, what was the point though? Oh, but Brandon was like, but so they couldn't hang out together unless Brandon would go with them, kind of deal, right? And then, but so they would be like, all right, B, come on. But Brandon would be like, but dude, when we leave the house, we'd be gone like 30 minutes and they'd be like cold shouldering me, shrugging me off, you know, kind of like that. I don't want this fucking guy around. He's like kinking our shit, like he's like rocking the gear, kind of, you know, that feeling. How people
Oh,
can
like
kind
they
of
were
do.
doing. Sarah and Adrian were doing that to Brandon.
Yeah, and he said most of the time he would get dropped off at another friend's house, or he'd get dropped off out of his mom's, and he'd sit out there for hours, and then they'd come back and get him. He
Yeah.
wasn't always riding around with Adrian and Sarah like most people think. He was a lot of, you know, and that's what he told me anyway. So, and I was like, well, what do you mean? Like, kind of like they wanted to fuck or something and you were in the way? He was like, yeah. And he was like, it was all the time, you know, we'd go, but they couldn't go hang out together because Stacy'd give them shit unless I went with them. And then so I'd go with them, you know, and then they would they treat me some kind of fucking way, like I was in the way. And like I just said, and then I'd be like, well, what would you do? And he'd go, well, you know, I'd just go hang out with a friend's house or something, or fucking go kick rocks or whatever, man. He's like, I
Right.
didn't.
But
So,
did he ever talk to you about whether or not he stayed the night at the house that night? The Mike, because I know
I
he
think
has
he said,
told you that he hung out with them during the day and stuff. But did he ever mention to you what he did that night?
I think he said that they just went back after they hauled that car, and they went back home, and because I even asked him, bro, straight up. I was like, does Sarah? I know Sarah couldn't have kids. Like, she get y'all high on meth and get you to kidnap a kid and shit, and you guys sober up and realize, oh shit, we fucked up, and your dumbasses that, you know, and stuff like that. I mean, I've asked him some straight up cold questions, dude. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or were y'all doing one of your stupid fucking YouTube videos and y'all hit him with a car or something? You know, I've asked him all that stuff, Sam. You know,
Right. And
and
a lot of people think that and stuff. And
well, you know, an
law
accident
enforcement's
could
never
turn
confirmed
into.
that Michael was ever hit. There was no evidence that he was ever hit. Matter of fact, that's one of the things that I consider a rumor in Michael's case, that Michael was hit by a car and it was a cover up or something. Toaster here wants to know when Brandon talks to
Well, the
you.
reason I tell you, I asked him that. Hold that thought. Let me
Okay.
bring this up before I lose it. The reason I say that isn't because rumors or anything I've heard, like speculatively, other than what Brandon has told me that the day before and a couple of days before that, him and Adrian were flying through that neighborhood, drifting their car, doing YouTube videos and crash scenes.
Oh, because Brandon said something on a live about doing that up at the mall or something.
Yeah,
Well,
well, all over. They were doing it all over. Yeah, I'm not gonna say that was only one
Okay.
specific place, but that was a place.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean that makes
So
sense.
that's why I was like, you know, that one day I was like, you know, so what? I mean, y'all hit him or something, dude? Like, why would you call the cops, man? I mean, or like what, if you did or whatever, like I've asked him like 1,000 different scenarios,
I know you have. I know you
and
have.
I've gotten the same exact word for word story over and over out of him for 3 years. So
Toaster wants to know, when Brandon talks to you, does he try to convince you or is he scared?
he tries to avoid it.
Yeah. That's what he does to me when I try asking him questions and talk to him about it. He tries to change the subject. He tries to avoid any questions that
There's
I
never an answer, right?
right.
Right. So
Melissa says, did Brandon's mom tell you that dogs hid at her house?
yeah, I was aware of all that. She even told me she made them spaghetti dinner as they searched her house.
She made them a spaghetti dinner?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Yep, didn't know that one.
Yeah, there's a little detail.
Still looking at questions, everybody. Thank you guys for having patience.
Brandon's mom's and I mean, honest, she's quirky, don't get me wrong, and they got a weird relationship. But she is a genuinely typically nice lady. And, she tries to claim to be a Christian or whatever. She's a nice lady. She used to send me food and stuff all the time, and like she makes things, and she's a nice lady in a way. Um, the grandma's a sweetheart. Brandon's grandma. I never met the
right.
granddad personally. His whole family's pretty much decent, hardworking Idahoans, and I don't know, man. I don't. Just the crowd you keep, man. I guess, right?
Callie, honey, if you have a question and I haven't gotten to it, text me real quick. Text me your question so that I can ask it, because I want to ask your question.
I'm not tripping out.
No, I have somebody in chat and I love her questions. A lot of people are like, that's a great question. I'm not seeing it. I'm just letting you guys know chat is flying by for me right now. Like, there are so many people talking, asking questions. I'm going to look on my phone because I can scroll better from my phone. Do you know Brandon to be outside walking around, like just going on walks in like 107-degree weather or anything? Or have you seen that picture of Brandon?
Yeah, I've seen that picture. I also noticed he was very skinny back then too, which I'm not used to because I fattened him up over here. I eat a lot of elk and stuff, so he wasn't skinny out here because I worked the shit out of him and we were eating all the time, eating good. So
Yeah.
and when we were younger, he wasn't too fucking skinny either. So but when I look at the picture and I look at some of his pics from then, I mean, if you want to go on a silhouette,
Yeah.
I can see where they think the silhouette might
Yeah.
be,
A lot of people
and then I
believe.
get the crop shirt and all the pictures back then of the crop shirt. I
Yeah.
get why a lot of people could think that. I couldn't answer that question about it. I couldn't say yay or nay on that. So I have no idea. Does he just take off walking here when he lived with me? Fuck no, man. We worked all the time. We go home, he went to bed. And,
Here's another question by Callie. She is asking, did Brandon say that he left and went back to his mom's house the night that Michael was abducted because he was annoyed with Sarah and Stacy?
I feel like I did hear some shit like that. Let me think about that for a minute. I really honestly feel like I remember him saying that they were being weird to him that day, and he ended up at his mom's or some shit, or I could be mixing shit too, man. Cause I used to ask him so much stuff, And then, because he's told me that he would go to his mom to stay, he'd stay over there 3, 4 days, and then they'd get all weird, and he'd go to his mom's for a week, and he'd go back maybe there for a week, and then his mom's. He said he didn't stay there all day every day, but he stayed there for a period one time, and then he would stay there for days. But that night, I want to say, man, I'm being honest with you guys, very hard to remember word for word, 'cause I've watched so many of these damn videos and stuff, and I feel like shit mixes in your head. And
Well, no worries. I mean, if you can't remember, you can't remember. Because if you can't
so
remember, I don't want you to speak on it.
here's
Because,
here's what I remember. I remember asking him why he didn't find it funny that they chose that day to take him to get his car after him asking for like a month and a half or 6 weeks or something to go get the damn thing. And why the fuck he didn't pick up on that being a red flag or being weird. And I was like, so you don't think that's fucking weird? And he looked, and like he was pondering it, to tell you the truth, like, because he was like, that is kind of strange, Danny. I didn't even think about that. And
yeah.
I was like, well, dude, you better pull your head out of your fucking ass, man. You're looking at fucking lethal injection, bud. And
Right. And you and I know that this is true because you and I have talked about this before. You've mentioned this to me before. Um, did he ever talk to you about Stacy and Sarah's taxi business? This is a great question coming from Callie
I
also because
I asked
um
him how they financed everything because I thought maybe trafficking word too. And I'm not trying to upset the mom or anything. And so I'm trying to watch what I say too. And I thought maybe there's a lot of weird shit that goes on, man. And people sell anything. I'll just put it that way, right? And I thought, well, like, well, Brandon, how did they finance this shop, and how do they finance these fucking vehicles, and how they finance? All of a sudden you got these businesses going on and this and that. And Brandon was just more along for the ride, man. Like, I don't think he was privy to a lot of their insight. I don't think he was privy. Yeah, that's the vibe I get out of a lot of it. He was more like the tool they would use for fucking clean the house or drive their taxi. They made the money, changed the oil, but they made the money. You know what I mean?
yeah, I do.
And,
Um and we've all talked about that before. A lot of people think that Brandon was, used um making them a shit ton of money. I know Brandon told me on
and
the
that
phone
and I think that's
that
what he's
there were
doing out
times
there
that
right now, where he's at right now, because he's already told me how that guy barely pays him and he works his ass off. And like, because he's worked over there, I guess, with that same guy before. And 'cause that's the guy that does the rocks and shit, I believe. And he's told me stories about how this guy makes like $10,000-$20,000 a week sometimes, and Brandon gets like $300-$400. And I was like, dude, what? So I
does
think
Brandon
about,
have any tattoos?
Nautical star.
he's got like a little nautical star on his arm, like one. It's up on his shoulder, I think.
Okay.
That's the
Thank
only
you,
one I
Caleb.
know. Oh, and he's got one about the size of your pinky finger. He has to get a whatever kind of airplane his granddad used to draw, and the guy put a dick on him. So he's got a little penis on the inside of his leg.
Oh, good Lord.
So,
He and
but I mean,
I.
that's nothing you'd see. That's nothing you'd see through. Just
Yeah.
being honest with you. That's two tattoos you got.
You can be honest with me. I get embarrassed. I get embarrassed quite easily. My face is probably 3 shades of red right now.
He's probably madder than the horn in himself.
Everybody is just so grateful that you're here and that you're answering questions.
Yeah.
And Jessica is on it in chat answering questions and talking about things too. And
Back to that grainy video at the splash pad. I was watching some of your reels today, Sam, just trying to refresh on some stuff when I
yeah,
could. I know it wasn't. It was last night before I went to bed. And I was watching some of your reels, and you did that one on the laundromat.
yeah.
Um, what the fuck's that in the picture laying on that duffel bag?
I don't know. Is
Like
there
a-
something on it?
Yeah, it looks like a damn gag or something.
I don't know. I'll have to look at it. I didn't see anything. All I saw was the duffel bag.
Yeah, what's
Yeah, and the
that?
reason why I even did that short was because I mean, Stacy and Wandra, just a few months prior to Michael's abduction, is sitting at a laundromat across the street from a splash pad where Stacy Wandra also sat at a splash pad at 1:30 in the afternoon, the day that Michael was abducted. And then later on that afternoon, spent over 2 hours sitting at a skate park the day that Michael was abducted. So that's the reason all of that was posted, but lots of people have also speculated and theorized about that
I
backpack.
think you guys are gonna discover one big old ring of creepos.
Yeah, and something else, Halo, I can throw this up real quick and put it up for you to see. Um, Brandon there were times that Brandon would write all over his body. Look at this. So he could have looked like he had tattoos at some time. And I know a lot of people say, oh, that can't be Brandon in that picture because Brandon doesn't have tattoos, but Brandon wrote on himself quite a bit. And
That's some
there could have
tweaker
been
shit right
times.
there.
That's exactly what my husband said when he saw these
That's
pictures.
some straight up 8-ball Tuesday shit.
Let me see.
Look at those pics.
Yeah.
You like that stuff? Oh, yeah.
That's a lot of work for it not to be permanent too.
Yeah, so I mean, just to clarify with everybody, so he's just writing all over himself and stuff, and
Well, he probably ran out of wallpaper and counter space tops and just started tagging himself.
I'm starting to hear your orneriness. Do you have that whip, Jessica? You better start getting at him. He's getting ornery.
Oh no, I'm not ornery. Not at all. I'm just sitting there trying to figure
No,
out who the hell
I just
doodles
have to
all
tell
over
you,
there.
I laughed so hard today. She sent me this picture of a little hand that's like on like a fly swatter, I will say, like it looked like a little hand with like a handle, and she was like, I got this to get Dan just in case he starts in. I had tears coming down my eyes when you sent me that picture. I was
Well,
like, what the heck?
who the hell just starts drawing flames on a damn arm? I mean,
Sky is on fire.
I don't know, man.
Brandon ever denied to you being that walking guy in the neighborhood?
Did you ever what? Deny? Is that what's that?
Deny?
Deny.
Yeah, being
Yes,
that
yes.
guy in that picture.
You thought it wasn't him.
Yeah, he's denied it the whole time.
Okay. That was another question. Um,
But man, he is.
he
He
has
told
seen
me.
pictures of the walking man. I'm just going through more questions. Yes, he has seen pictures of the walking man. He did. Do you think that it's Brandon in that picture?
I don't know if I lost you or repeat that question. I guess
Um,
I heard part of it.
I told somebody that yes, you have seen a picture of the guy walking in the neighborhood, and then they want to know, do you think that that is Brandon in that picture? Which I think you kind of answered it earlier, but I think
If you know how to listen, I did.
yeah, he doesn't think that it is, but he doesn't know in a silhouette way. It kind of does, but he feels like that Brandon was a little heavier set back then, but he can't say one way or another. Is that pretty much
Because I wasn't around back then, so
right?
comparatively looking at some of the pictures of the same time frame, body shape, stuff like that, attire, the silhouette with the attire. I mean, one could presume yes. But it's a grainy ass pic. Like, why even have a camera?
Yeah. I have another question here.
Did they ever get that cleaned up? I mean, I'm sure there's a way to get that. They got that cleaned up a little bit. That ain't
I don't
the
know. It
pick
is
I'm
really
sure.
fuzzy. That's why I've always been on the fence on whether it was or not. The way I look at it is Brandon does wear shorts. Brandon does wear those cut off, shirts. We're talking about a little neighborhood. How many guys in that neighborhood wear a shirt like that? So I always keep that in mind. He wore hats, and I've actually had somebody send me a picture of Brandon's shoes from back in the day, and they match the same shoes as that guy that's walking around in the neighborhood is wearing. So, I mean, it's not clear as day that but they do look a hell of a lot like the shoes he was wearing in that picture. So I'm still on the fence, and it's only because the picture's not clear. But I have had people tell me that that's Adrian Lucian, and I can't handle that because it's not the same skin color as Adrian. Adrian also has an afro. Like, it cannot be Adrian. Also, because he's covered from head to toe in tattoos. But this question here is kind of a serious question. And
Where was Caesar at during the time of all this? Because I mean, man, he had his damn page, his social
they,
media.
as far as I know, they have, cleared Caesar. As much as I know, that's what I've heard.
I mean, because his
But I've
shape,
never
his
been able
shape
to
really
verify.
does line up with it.
But Caesar also had like a lot of face hair back then, and you don't see any in that picture. And his hair was like red. I don't even think he was actually in the area from what I've been told. Again, that is not verifiable. Don't quote me on that. I've only heard that. But what would you think, Dan, if you were told 1000% that was Brandon? What would you think?
Not given the circumstances, I think, okay, you got a picture of a guy walking on the road somewhere. Given the circumstances, the time and place and day, and the history now, I would say, I mean, I don't know what, I mean, I gotta watch what I say, but I would say, fuck it. I mean, send to Calvary. So
Yeah.
I don't, man, it's weird. It's a very weird situation, and it's a very sad situation. And everybody that loves someone's lost somebody, and during this, it's tragic for everybody. You know, they got moms too, and these people are all idiots. You know, there's just some things you do in life, even if you're a criminal. There's just some things you don't fucking do, and
Yeah.
these people are idiots, and it's a sad situation. What would I say is I'd say, you mean like personally, what would I say to him, or what would I say about, okay, the picture is verified?
Well, yeah, I think they're just wanting to know like what you would say as far
Wow.
as like if you knew for a fact that that was him. My
I'd
phone is
say
blowing up.
I'd say that um the heart can be blind.
Yeah. Do you know about any rules at Brandon's mom's house as far as like was he allowed to be at her house or whatnot if she wasn't there?
No, they weren't supposed to be there. When they went up there that time, they weren't supposed to be up there. That's why he snuck in the way he did. He told me that.
Yeah. Has he ever said anything to
And
you?
the mom didn't like Stacy, and they weren't supposed to be up there at all. But Stacy was willing to take him to get his car, and that was another reason why I thought it was strange too, because Stacy ain't supposed to be up at his mom's house, and then Stacy and Sarah was demanding if he wanted to go, they had to go then, or they weren't going to take him. He was like, "But I've been asking for 6 weeks, man."
Yeah.
So that's when I started kind of leaning on. They did that for an excuse to use Brandon as an alibi, maybe. But you know, I
You
also
do realize though that so I don't know if you know this timeline or not. I'm just going to tell you the timeline. I don't want to try to convince you of anything. I do not do that with you. So law enforcement put out that Monkey came up missing between 6:40 and 7:10.
I remember
They
that. Yeah.
they have the red Sierra truck that Brandon, Sarah, and Stacy were in leaving the neighborhood at 7:08, just a few minutes prior. Like in that time frame. So, I mean, has he, and you heard him up on my show talk about how, they pulled over to the side of the road. I know you've heard Stacy Wandra talk about seeing a kid in the neighborhood. Like, they left the Wandra's house. They went out on 8th Street. They pulled over to the side of the road on 8th and Arizona. The dirt, like, that is like the location where Monkey came up missing, and then exited the neighborhood, being seen on CCTV camera in the time frame that Monkey came up missing.
Yeah,
Did you know that?
I did not know all that detail at all. No. I knew the basic story. I think the world knows. And that was enough for me to think it was suspect. So
Yeah, and Brandon even talks about it up on panel with me, that they pulled over to the side of the road, that he got out of the truck to help Stacy put power steering fluid in the
and
truck. And it was the very first time
and
that,
how he tries to minimize his activity and the crime committed by saying he can't dig or mow a yard, but he could push a car up on a trailer.
right, Stacy, yeah, exactly. But the thing
It's
I'm
so
just trying to
it's
point
just
out is also that Brandon saying that he got out of the truck, that's the first time up on my live that I had with him, the very first time it's ever been said that Brandon got out of the vehicle. Otherwise, it was just Stacy saying that he was the only one that got out of the vehicle, that Sarah was driving. I was shocked when Brandon said that he got out of the vehicle to help put in the power steering fluid. So you have Stacy and Brandon outside the vehicle, parked off the side of the road in like the same location where Monkey disappeared.
not to
Or was it
minimize not to minimize anything. I've just
right?
my buddies have jumped out with me many times when I've popped my hood.
Right. Yeah.
And I've done the same in a spot during the 30-minute time frame that someone's kid goes missing, Michael goes missing. No, I can't say I've ever. That's very, very, very strange.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm not trying to convince you of anything. I know you guys watch and stuff, but we recently just found out because Brandy
Yeah, I
is
was
the
gonna
one
say
who
I didn't
yeah.
hear any of that. Yeah.
Brandy, when I did that live with her with Stacy Wandra, she is the one who actually put out that 7:08 time frame. So
Well,
it's kind
I
of new
caught.
information that that's when they were leaving the neighborhood, was within
Well, when
that.
you did that live with Stacy and her, I also caught him saying Brandon, Sarah, and then he went to say Adrian, and then he changes it.
He changed it from
Yeah.
Brandon.
Yeah, he did.
Because they all keep trying to act like Adrian wasn't around. And I don't know, man. I think that's very strange, and because they all three suspects really try their hardest to push the fourth one away.
Did Brandon ever say whether or not Adrian went with them to Cuna that night to pick up the car?
No, ma'am. He told me he ended up staying at like his baby's mom's house or something like that. But then when you hear Stacy tell what they were doing, I mean, he goes to say Adrian was with them.
Yeah.
So they all, I don't know, man. It's like it's almost like watching. It's like a cliffhanger, man. It's like right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, and I know that it's very difficult for you to talk about it and stuff when you know him. I can't even imagine, you
Well,
know.
not. I mean, it's difficult. It's strange. It's out of the ordinary. It's not difficult because I'm trying to help you guys figure out with whatever little bit of information out of what I could tell you you get. But I just, yeah, it's mind blowing to me. Is why I keep being hesitant. Honestly, I sit and think about it momentarily for a second, and it's mind blowing. It's tragic, and I don't know, man. Even if at this point, I don't know why one of them hasn't just coughed up and cut yourself a fucking deal and helped. You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
because they're all. It sounds to me like they're all getting indicted anyway. So it wasn't.
Yeah, I believe that they will be all indicted. I mean, I know that's what the DA has told the Vaughn family.
That's what
I
they
know.
told me, and I'm sure they didn't fly out here for nothing.
Yep. And that's, and that's a very good thing to be bringing up too. Like, law enforcement isn't going to go up there, talk to you, tell you that they're going to come up with a first degree, murder charge on Brandon unless they have some kind of evidence. Because if they didn't have any kind of evidence, it would have to be something like murder in the second degree or third degree or this or that. It could be any other charge, but it's not. It's first degree murder. And then it's to
You
take the
still
death
get,
penalty
still get,
off
you
the table.
still get life either way. So they're still gonna get life, I would imagine. And it's tragic because I don't know, man. I don't know what could run through a person's mind. You're cruising down the road one day and just do some shit. I don't know, man. It's weird to me. It's just kind of mind-boggling.
Yeah, I know it is. I really appreciate you coming here and talking with me. I will let you down. I know you have to go to work tomorrow. Questions have really slowed down in chat. I appreciate you answering questions, and yeah, I appreciate it so much that you came up. And most of all, just want to thank you for the Vaughn family, for Brandy. Like, she is so thankful knowing that you're here, that you came, that you were willing to talk about things, especially, having a good relationship with Brandon and the family. And I know you were nervous. And you've done a great job. You answered so many questions, and, it's just really good to know that there is some kind of movement going on in Monkey's case. Whatever the movement is it's good movement. So yeah,
Well,
everybody.
I hope they get peace and they get justice, and I would like to say I hope at least Brandon gets acquitted. It'd be nice to know that he was just a Ponzi along the way somewhere, and he just, you know, that's my in my personal world. Other than that,
I know, and I know that you want that, for Brandon. I know you want that
well,
because
for his dad too, man, his family, because they're losing someone too, and it's just a sad situation, man.
exactly. But thank you again. Thank you, Jessica. I've heard you back there a little bit here and there and in chat. I appreciate you answering questions in chat. Really thankful. And yeah, we can send Brandon a couple of links and let him know that you came up on the live, and maybe he'll decide to come up and talk and say something, or maybe he's not going to talk to either one of us now. Who knows?
I tried to call him at like 6:50 just to let him know I was going on and if he wanted to join, and I haven't got a response at all.
Yeah. Well, I know you haven't, said anything here that you haven't said to him, so he shouldn't
No,
have anything.
not at all. And I was nice on your show.
I know you were.
I
Thank you.
wasn't too nice. A few of my
I
questions
know.
I enjoyed him.
You do not mince your words. You talk just like my husband.
Well, it's why sugarcoat? It's already out there.
Right?
Um,
Exactly.
and I just hope, just for Brandy, I hope y'all get your justice, and I hope you figure out what happened to your kid, and I hope you get your son home. And I'm very sorry that we live in the world that we live in, and I hope the next world is nothing like this one, and I hope in the next world that you get your peace and your family back. And I'm very sorry for all you guys.
Well, thank you so much for that. Thanks again for coming. I really appreciate it, Dan.
You're
You guys
welcome.
have a good night.
Yes, ma'am. You have a good night too, Sam.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Yes, ma'am. Bye-bye.
Well, there you got it. Dan came on. You guys are amazing. Thank you guys so much for like being patient throughout the live. I did see lots of questions coming up. You know, while I was talking with him, we kind of had a plan on how we were going to, you know, talk about things and everything. You know, Dan has tried very, very hard to talk with Brandon and find out as much as he possibly could about the situation, just trying to figure out, you know, if Brandon had anything to do with Michael's abduction or Michael's murder, because he has a family too. And Brandon's, you know, has been at his house, and he wants to make sure that he doesn't have some monster at his house, you know, around his kids, around his family, around him. Yeah, just so thankful that he's here, and I know the Vaughn family really appreciates it and stuff. Thank you, Mama B, for being here. Thank you so much. You know, like I've always said, I cannot do this without you guys. I feel like I have like an amazing chat, so respectful the entire time he was up here. You know, I was shocked that Dan even agreed to come live, honestly. And he did. And it's amazing that he was up here talking, and he was confirming a lot of what we have already heard from Misty on Saturday, that law enforcement, the state's prosecutor, and the sheriff, probably from Livingston, Montana, went to Montana, offered Brandon a plea deal, told him, sign this, get the death penalty taken off the table. And, you know, what they wanted from him was for Brandon to tell them where Monkey is. So it sounds like law enforcement believes that Brandon knows where Monkey is. And when Dan talked to the detective and said, hey man, like, I just want to know, like, did my brother, did my buddy, he calls him brother a lot, you know, have anything to do with this? Do you guys think that he did this? And he was told by that detective that, you know, they believe that Brandon duct tape and bound Michael and put him in a trash bag and suffocated him. And that's what he was told. And we've heard that before in the Stacy Wandra confession. We didn't hear the suffocating part, so that was very disheartening to hear. I know, big trigger warning. Sorry, everybody. Protect your mental health. We know that Brandy believes that Brandon knows something. We know that law enforcement has said that, you know, Brandon has some knowledge, just like they've said about Adrian, Lucy, and that they both have some kind of knowledge. And let's hear what Brandy has to say again, one more time, to Brandon. So Brandon, if you're listening or on the replay, please hear Brandy's pleas and tell us where Monkey is.
And Brandon, you know what happened to our beautiful baby. Whether you were directly involved, but you know. You need to start talking. You need to come forward. Quit lying, quit hiding. Please tell us where Michael is. Let our family have some rest, please. Let us bring our baby home. We've worked tirelessly, endlessly. Law enforcement, stop protecting these criminals. It's time to tell the truth. It's time to own up. It's time to find Michael and bring him home and stop your BS.
It is time to come out and tell the truth. One of the 4 suspects abducted Michael. One of the 4 suspects murdered Michael. One of the 4 suspects buried him in the Wandra's backyard. And one of the 4 suspects moved Michael to an unknown location. And the 4 named suspect as of January 10th, 2025, just a few months back, are Stacy Wandra, Sarah Wandra, Adrian Lucian, and Brandon Shurtliff. The tip line, the Fruitland tip line is 208-642-6006, or you can email findmichael@fruitland.org. No tip is too big or small. Please let law enforcement decide if your tip is credible. There is a reward for over $52,000 with any information regarding Michael's whereabouts. You may even have heard a rumor or know something, been told something. Like I said, let law enforcement decide if your tip is credible. It could lead them to something huge. It could lead them to Michael Vaughn. Michael Vaughn was abducted July 27th of 2021 in Fruitland or Fruitland, Idaho, from his neighborhood. Michael wandered away from his home, and there were monsters in the neighborhood, and Michael was abducted. I stand with law enforcement. I stand with Brandy. Anybody that knows Brandy knows that I stand with Brandy and the Vaughn family. 100%. Everything I do is for that family, for the Vaughns, for Monkey, because I want Michael to get the justice that he deserves, and I want the Vaughn family to have peace. They have suffered way too long. Brandy is so sick. She gave me permission to talk about what's going on with her. She had many blood transfusions last week. They had to cancel her trip to Utah. She also had thrush in her mouth, and the thrush spread throughout her body, caused a stomach infection. Brandy is not doing good. She is very, very ill. She is fighting for her life. She has been for a while now. Do I know what's going to happen from here? No. I do not know what it means that she did not get to go to that class in Utah. She was supposed to go to Utah, take a class, get to the top of the transplant list, and that didn't happen. She is still on the list as far as I know, but she's not at the top of the list because she couldn't make it to Utah. I don't know where the plans are going from here regarding her liver. So anybody asking me that, I don't know. But she needs prayers, and we need to be asking God for a miracle. We need a miracle. The Vaughn family needs a miracle right now. Let's find Michael. Let's ask God to heal Brandy. If you have any tips, the Fruitland Police Department's number is 208-642-6006, or you can email findmichael@fruitland.org. Let me come over here to chat and see what's going on. Thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate it so much. We are Monkey's Army. We're not going away. That will never happen. We're never going to give up. If anything were to happen to Brandy, we're still not going to stop. We're here. It's not going to happen. It's been a very difficult week for Brandy. I was actually really shocked to even see her in chat Saturday night. I was very thankful though that she came in. She said hi. She wants everybody to know she's out there, she's watching, but she's doing what she's got to do to rest up right now. Brandon, you definitely want to get to work with law enforcement. It's your only chance to avoid the hellhounds that are coming for you. Yep. You know, like Callie is saying, you never know what little piece of information you have that can help bring Michael home. Let law enforcement decide if your tip is credible. Just call it in, no matter what you know. Blue Hearn says, Michael deserves to come home and to be put to rest with his family. He deserves that honor and dignity since his life was snuffed out by the sick, twisted monsters. Just imagine, Brandon, if that was your daughter. Or the twins you could have. But God made the best decision because I'm not going to even say they make the best decision because anybody having a miscarriage is not a good thing. A mother is suffering right now because she lost her babies. Your Monkey's Army. Ramonkey strong, Brandy strong, Tyler and family strong. We stand with Brandy, Tyler, and the family. 100%. Find Michael. Can we all pray that Michael can come home? Thank you guys all so much for being here. And again, thanks everybody for the super chats, for being members, for subscribing, for hitting the notification button and joining us tonight. I really do appreciate all of your questions. You guys actually had some amazing questions, and I love that so much. Yes, thanks, Dan and Jessica. Thank you, Connie, for being here. I know there was a lot of people in chat that I didn't welcome in earlier today, or earlier. Zane says, I would honestly hate for Stacy's disgusting self to get any sort of plea deal. Murderers shouldn't get a plea deal. You know, he was actually offered one after he gave that tip too. Let me see something. Maybe I'll just share that tomorrow. I'm pretty sure. So yeah, click the notification bell. I'm going to be putting out some information tomorrow. It's in regards to a search for Monkey. That's all I'm going to say tonight. Brandon needs to come forward with what he knows so the right people are held fully accountable. Absolutely agree. You guys all for thanking me. Honestly, I feel grateful and honored to be working on Monkey's case. For getting to know Brandy and then the Vaughn family. I just absolutely love working on this case, as horrific, as the case is. But knowing that I can do something, knowing that, things are happening, things are moving, that's important to me. I'm glad that I am here to be able to, present new information in Monkey's case. And yeah, I just, I really just love being here for Monkey. Thank you, Sam. Have a blessed night. You were very appreciated and you did an amazing job as always. Thank you so much, Mama B. You're always so sweet. I'm not sure what time I'm putting it up tomorrow, honestly. Tonight was a later live than I normally do because Dan and Jessica were working late and he couldn't do the live until later. So I might go right back to the time of like around 3:30, 4-ish my time. Not sure. Oh, thank you, Halo. I love everybody so much too. We're like a little Missing PNW family here, and you guys are amazing. Chat was great. I knew everybody was going to like Dan. Dan's a good guy. You know, he got up here and he didn't have to do that. Just like Misty. Misty didn't have to get up here. Like I said, did not think that Dan would actually come up on a live. I was not expecting him to. So, you know, he was very, very, very nervous about it. And he had almost backed out once and then decided, no, I'm not gonna, because, you know, he was nervous. You know, he's speaking out loud about somebody that he's known for years. He's speaking about his friend's son. He's speaking about his friend. And right now, you know, Brandon and him are talking how close they are. I mean, it's been a strange relationship for a while now. Brandon's been acting very strange with me too since that last live, since law enforcement showed up in Montana, which, you know, is like over a month ago. So, yeah. Yeah, I think I'm going to get off. I hope everybody has a good night. I'm going to play Monkey's video. And if you guys want to throw up some monkeys and hearts and prayers and hearts and all of the very cool things that we do to show support for the Vaughn family and Monkey, Brandy is the strongest woman I know. I pray for her every single day throughout the day. And I'm very, 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 what is the word I'm looking for? I think I need to eat dinner, guys. I think my blood sugar is getting low. I'm very, very confident that she has the strength to pull through this. So please send prayers. Thank you guys so much. You guys have a good night. I will see you guys tomorrow.